The first time the alien diplomat saw a sneeze, he nearly evacuated the room. Leon Varian was already 2 hours into a cultural exchange presentation at the United Earth Embassy, orbiting Neutral Station Sarah 9, when the sneeze happened. He'd been explaining the concept of Earth's seasonal flu using a slideshow, complete with outdated illustrations of runny noses and microscopic renderings of viral structures. The audience, composed entirely of high-ranking Xelari officials, shifted uncomfortably in their containment seats, each sealed in their own hermetically regulated pod. Leon sniffled once, cleared his throat, then turned another slide. "This one's called Influenza A, very common," he said, tapping the hollow projector. "Mutates fast, really annoying. You mostly recover in a week unless you're unlucky or immunocompromised. We've got vaccines, though." "What does that sound?" The Xelari ambassador, a long-limbed being named Viral, leaned forward, eyes wide behind his visor. Leon rubbed his nose. "Sorry. Dry air. I might be catching a cold." Viral stood so fast he hit the top of his pod with a metallic clang. "Containment breach. Pathogenic exhalant detected. Initiate level 5 quarantine." Leon blinked. "Wait, what?" An alarm flared. The other Xelari scrambled inside their pods, seals hissing shut. Vents opened in the ceiling. A fine mist sprayed the air with something that smelled faintly like burnt mint and vinegar. Leon raised his hands, palms out. "Guys, it's just a sneeze. You have emitted particulate biological agents," Viral shouted through the pod's intercom. "You must be isolated. I didn't even sneeze yet. Your nose produced sound. That is precursor to the fluid burst." Leon sighed, fished a tissue from his pocket, and blew his nose loudly. The reaction was immediate. Every Xelari ducked, reflexively shielding their faces even inside their sealed pods. After a long silence, accompanied only by the whine of the environmental scrubbers, Leon looked up again. "That's why we have vaccines and tissues," he said. Viral's eyes narrowed. "Vaccines? And tissues?" "Yes. You know, for mucus." Viral turned to one of his aides and whispered something that sounded like a bag of rice being shaken in a tin bucket. The aide nodded and typed furiously into a terminal. Leon watched them, still holding his crumpled tissue like a peace offering. "We will need to revise all diplomatic protocols," Viral said at last. "Effective immediately." 3 hours later, Leon found himself confined to a temporary decontamination unit. He sat inside a translucent dome, wearing nothing but a hospital gown as a robotic arm scanned his sinuses. "Are you experiencing fatigue?" the medbot asked. "Only of the diplomatic kind. Please clarify. I'm tired of being treated like a walking plague." "Noted." The arm beeped and withdrew. "No viral activity detected. You are cleared." Leon stepped out, dressed quickly, and was met by a grim-faced Earth liaison named Brinley Lorne. She handed him a datapad. "You made the Xelari High Council rewrite their entire first contact hygiene doctrine," she said. Leon blinked. "Over a sniffle?" "They filed a formal complaint. They're calling it a Class 3 biowarfare exposure." Leon rubbed his temples. "We literally have posters in elementary schools about covering your mouth when you sneeze. How do they survive anything? They don't have viruses. Not like we do. Their immune systems were engineered centuries ago to be pathogen-free. No colds, no flus, no antibodies. They don't even have mucus. That's horrifying. They think we're horrifying." Viral requested a full catalog of Earth's infectious diseases. "He wants to know how many biological weapons your species carries naturally." Leon glanced at the datapad. The list was already 200 items long. "Does it include chickenpox?" "Yes." "Measles?" "Yes." "Norovirus?" They had to invent a new word for that one. They described it as liquid betrayal from all orifices. Leon laughed, then winced. "Sorry. Still sore from the quarantine bed. Those things are not designed for backs." Brinley gave him a look. "The council is requesting a second meeting. In full hazmat." Of course they are. Leon showed up the next day, swaddled in what looked like a cross between a spacesuit and a plastic-wrap cocoon. His breath fogged the inside of his visor. Across from him, Varal sat in something resembling a fish tank filled with a pale blue mist. "We have reviewed your data," Varal said. "You live surrounded by microbial death. Yet you persist." "Well, we have immune systems," Leon said. "And vaccines. And tissues." "You mentioned these vaccines. They are injectable. Usually. Sometimes nasal sprays. They train our body to recognize a virus without giving us the full-blown illness. It's not perfect, but it helps. And tissues are containment instruments for mucus?" Leon held one up. "Disposable. Soft. Keeps things from getting gross." Varal stared through the glass. "Your species is the only one we've encountered that weaponizes its own biology simply by existing." "We're not trying to weaponize it," Leon said. "We're just trying not to drown in our own snot when winter hits." Varal leaned forward. "We wish to study your immune response." Leon hesitated. "Like, on Earth? In a lab? Preferably in a controlled environment. A simulated exposure scenario. You want me to sneeze on something?" Varal nodded solemnly. 2 weeks later, Leon found himself in a sealed biodome on the Xelari research vessel Zahen. The dome was modeled after a typical Earth living room couch, coffee table, even a fake fireplace. In the corner sat a humidifier pumping eucalyptus-scented mist into the air. A Xelari scientist named Hark sat outside the dome, watching through a reinforced window. "You may begin the exposure sequence," Hark said. Leon sniffled. "I think it's just allergies today. Do you require stimulation?" I brought pepper." He shook a small packet into his palm and sniffed deeply. "Nothing." "I swear this worked last time," he muttered. "Proceed with sneeze." Leon tickled his nose with a tissue, leaned back, and finally let out a loud, echoing sneeze. Instantaneously, red lights flashed. A robotic arm deployed from the ceiling and collected air samples. Hark recorded data feverishly. Subject has sneezed. Mucus detected. Airborne particulates labeled. Leon wiped his nose. "You guys are really intense about this. We have never encountered an organism that willingly ejects internal fluids under pressure as a regular function. It's not on purpose. It's just biology." Hark nodded. "We wish to test further. May we introduce a controlled rhinovirus to your system?" Leon paused. "You want to give me a cold?" "For science. That'll knock me out for a week. We will monitor and provide comfort resources." "Like what?" "Soup." Leon sighed. "Fine. But I want real chicken soup, not rehydrated algae chunks." 3 days later, he was curled under a blanket, nose raw from tissues, eyes bleary. The Xelari scientists observed every cough, every sneeze, every groan. One even took notes when he dropped his spoon. "You appear distressed," Hark noted. "I have a fever and my sinuses are trying to kill me." "This is normal? For a cold?" "Yeah. And yet you endure." Leon blew his nose violently. "We always do." Varal visited on the 5th day. He stood behind the glass, watching Leon shuffle to the bathroom and back, wrapped in a blanket like a disgruntled ghost. "Your resilience is concerning," Varal said. "It's not resilience," Leon mumbled. "It's ibuprofen and hot tea. You are still functional despite internal viral warfare." "Barely." Varal turned to Hark. "I believe we must revise our threat assessments." "Are we a threat now?" Leon asked, voice hoarse. "Your species is a paradox. You carry invisible weapons, yet treat them with tissues and warm liquids. You survive sicknesses that would decimate our colonies. And you do this regularly." Leon leaned against the couch. "We don't like it, but we deal with it. That's what we do." Varal was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "I believe we owe you an apology for our earlier reaction." Leon waved it off. "Just send cough drops next time." When he returned to Earth 3 weeks later, still sniffling but mostly recovered, Leon found his inbox full of Xelari queries. Some asked about immune system evolution. Others wanted samples of tissues to reverse engineer. One offered to buy the rights to chicken soup. Brinley met him at the landing bay holding a bag of groceries. Welcome back. Leon grabbed the orange juice from the top. They still think we're terrifying? They've reclassified humans as endemic biological anomalies. He laughed, then coughed. I'll take it. The Xelari did not knock. Leon was brushing his teeth in the shared crew quarters aboard the diplomatic vessel Tessera Blue, still wearing the oversized t-shirt he slept in when the door to his cabin hissed open and a Xelari named Quen entered without ceremony. Leon gagged slightly on the mint foam. Do you not believe in doorbells? He sputtered, spitting into the sink. We have reviewed them, Quen said, angling his head. They are considered inefficient in urgent contexts. Yeah, well, I'm not dying. I'm just brushing. Quen stepped further into the room, ignoring the half-unpacked duffel bag and pile of mismatched socks by the bunk. A small orb floated beside him, glowing faintly green. We have come to collect your oral biome. Leon stared. You want my spit? Preferably a mid-cycle sample. Salivary activity is highest after waking. Oh, great. You timed this. Quen opened a small compartment on the orb. Please excrete into the receptacle. Leon wiped his mouth with the back of his hand. You really gotta work on your phrasing. He leaned down, hawked into the orb's tiny opening, and stood back up. The orb hummed, sealed itself, and zipped out of the room without a word. Quen remained. Is this going to be a thing now? Leon asked, rummaging for pants. We are expanding our study. Your internal defense mechanisms exhibit behaviors inconsistent with any known biological logic. The Council has authorized full-spectrum observation. Of me, you are the only viable case study not under medical sedation. Leon pulled on a hoodie. You mean I'm the only one dumb enough to say yes? We assumed it was bravery. Close enough. 2 hours later, he was back in the observation dome, only this time it had been remodeled. The couch was gone, replaced by a treadmill, a stationary bike, and a rack of glittering vials along the far wall. An interactive display blinked to life as he entered. Welcome back, Subject Leon, it chirped. Today's session, immunological response to moderate physical stress. Leon glanced at the treadmill. You want me to jog? Please begin at a comfortable pace. He kicked off his shoes, stepped onto the belt, and started walking. Outside the dome, a semicircle of Xelari scientists watched him closely. One was sketching something on a tablet, another adjusted a sensor panel. 10 minutes in, he'd broken a sweat. The treadmill adjusted speed automatically. Heart rate elevated. Mild perspiration detected. Preparing sample collection. A small port opened near his elbow and a slender tube extended toward his skin. Whoa, wait, what's that? Perspiratory analysis. Please remain still. Leon kept walking as the tube gently tapped his arm, absorbed a droplet, and retracted. Do you guys measure everything? We do not yet understand the role of dermal excretions in viral resistance. Your species appears to leak during exertion. It's called sweating. It cools us down. You excrete fluid to regulate internal heat? That is deeply inefficient. Leon shrugged. It works. The treadmill slowed. The orb from earlier returned, now tinted blue. Time for post-exertion saliva sample, the display said. Of course it is, Leon muttered. He spat again. The orb zipped away. Subject Leon, the display said. Do you consent to mild antigen exposure? Leon stopped walking. Define mild. 1/1,000,000th of a standard rhinovirus unit. He squinted at the screen. That's basically nothing. The Council has expressed concern that even trace amounts may yield catastrophic results. For you, maybe. For me, that's a Tuesday. We will proceed if you agree. He nodded. The dome's air shimmered as a barely visible mist sprayed from the ceiling. It smelled faintly of oranges. Leon waited. Nothing happened. Outside the dome, Quen tapped something into a console. Initial exposure complete. Begin monitoring for behavioral deviation. Leon sat on the stationary bike and began pedaling. You know what's wild? You guys are terrified of a speck of virus that wouldn't even give me a sore throat, but you fly ships through asteroid fields like it's a sport. We control asteroids. We cannot control biology. That's kind of the point. You can't conquer everything. Quen tilted his head. Yet your species attempts to. Not always on purpose. He pedaled harder. The sensors ticked upward. A small robotic arm emerged from the wall and offered him a bottle of water. He took it, drank, and wiped his forehead. Your hydration habits are erratic, Quen observed. I drink when I'm thirsty. Thirst is considered a failure state in Xelari physiology. We maintain optimal saturation at all times. Leon grinned. Sounds boring. We prefer reliable. An hour later, Leon was back in his cabin, freshly showered and dressed, when Brinley's voice crackled through the intercom. Prep for surface visit in 20 minutes. We're landing on Xelari Prime. Leon blinked. Why? They want to observe your immune system in a naturalized alien context. Whatever that means. Do I need a translator? You'll have one. Just don't sneeze on anything. The shuttle descended over a city of translucent spires and pale green domes. The sky was a soft lavender, the sun dimmer than Earth's. Leon stared out the window at the streets below. There were no pedestrians. Everyone moved through sealed walkways or inside hovering capsules. By the time they landed, he'd been fitted with a clear breathing visor and a slim pack of monitoring devices. A Xelari named VS took lead, guiding him through a decontamination tunnel. You will be escorted through a controlled corridor, VS said. Please avoid touching any surfaces. Wasn't planning on licking the walls. They stepped into a corridor lined with glass. On the other side, dozens of Xelari watched through partitions. Some pointed. Others whispered. I feel like an exhibit, Leon said. You are a biological curiosity. This level of resilience is not reproducible in our species. Maybe that's a good thing. You get to live in a bubble. We just get colds. VS didn't respond. A door opened, revealing a spherical chamber with a central platform. Please stand in the center. Leon stepped forward. The platform lit up beneath his feet. Around him, holographic projections appeared, diagrams of human lungs, lymph nodes, blood vessels. A voice crackled from the ceiling. Demonstrate immune function. Leon looked up. What do you mean, demonstrate? Engage in behavior that activates internal defenses. He frowned. You want me to provoke my immune system? Yes. I'm not eating expired food for this. Engage in physical exertion, emotional agitation, or allergen exposure. Your choice. He reached into his pocket, pulled out a small keychain bottle of cinnamon spray he used for allergies, and gave it a quick squirt in the air. His eyes watered instantly. Congratulations, he said, sneezing once. That's histamine. The projections shifted. Data streamed across the walls. VS stepped forward. The release of histamines appears to be self-regulated. Yeah, that's how allergies work. Your body identifies harmless particles as threats and responds with inflammation. It's not ideal. Yet you tolerate it. Leon rubbed his eyes. Tolerate is a strong word. We complain a lot. The door opened again. A group of Xelari medical analysts entered, each holding a different instrument. One approached with a thermal scanner, another with a dermal analyzer. Please remain still. Do I get a sticker after this? VS looked puzzled. A sticker? Never mind. They scanned him, took readings, and withdrew without a word. Leon turned toward the observation wall. Is there a point to all this? VS answered without hesitation. We did not believe it was possible to coexist with pathogens. Your culture not only survives, among them it thrives. That forces us to reconsider foundational assumptions about biological safety. Leon folded his arms. And what if you can't replicate it? Then we must adapt. Or accept that vulnerability is not always a flaw. The chamber dimmed. A low chime echoed. Session complete, the voice announced. Back on board the Tessera Blue, Leon sat alone in the galley, sipping ginger tea laced with honey. He stared at the steam curling from the mug, thinking about the city's silent corridors and the way the Xelari stared at him like he was a walking paradox. Quen entered quietly and took a seat across from him. "You are returning to Earth soon. That's the plan. We have requested a full exchange program. Human volunteers. Long-term study." Leon raised an eyebrow. "You want more walking petri dishes? We wish to understand how your species evolved to accommodate chaos." Leon sipped his tea. "We didn't accommodate it. We came up fighting. And we never stopped." Quen tapped the table twice. "That may be the most alien thing of all." Leon woke up with an eyelid glued shut. He sat up in the ship's recovery bay, blinking against the sterile lights overhead. His left eye opened with a tacky pop, crusty residue flaking off as he rubbed his face. The biometric monitor beside the cot pinged softly, then turned green. He swung his legs over the edge and immediately sneezed into the crook of his arm. A low chime signaled the door opening. Hark, the Xelari scientist with a head like a glass cactus, entered carrying a tray of diagnostic tools and what looked like a small potted fern in a containment cube. "You are experiencing ocular discharge," Hark said, voice flat as ever. "Yeah," Leon groaned, grabbing a tissue from the dispenser. "That's what happens when you catch conjunctivitis. Pink eye. Probably from the dome's air filters. We sterilized them to 99.9%. Then it's the other 0.1. That's the fun bit." Hark placed the containment cube on the counter. Inside, the fern twitched. "We have introduced a controlled sample of Plenera vivasporum to examine your allergenic threshold." Leon squinted at the cube. "That thing moves. It responds to exhaled carbon dioxide. It will agitate slightly if you are within range. I'm still half sick, and now you're giving me a walking pollen factory? We are testing mucosal reaction under co-infection scenarios. If your immune system can tolerate simultaneous irritants, it confirms the multiphasic theory." Leon grabbed another tissue. "You could have warned me before bringing a twitchy sneeze plant into the room." Hark tilted his head. "It is restrained." The fern's tiny fronds slapped gently against the side of the cube. Leon stood and took 2 steps back. "Look, I already feel like a used sponge. Can we do this another day? The council requires real-time data. We must observe your reaction without pharmaceutical suppression. No drops. No antihistamines. Natural response only." Leon sighed. "Fine. But if I sneeze so hard I pull something, I'm naming the injury after you." 5 minutes later, he was seated in a transparent observation chamber with the containment cube placed on the floor beside him. The fern flared open like a sea anemone, releasing a faint puff of spores that shimmered in the filtered light. Leon's nose twitched instantly. "Here we go," he muttered. The sneeze was violent. He doubled over, coughing, eyes watering. Another sneeze followed, then a third. His throat began to itch. "Subject is initiating inflammatory cascade," Hark said over the intercom. "Note lacrimation, nasal dilation, and dermal flushing." Leon sniffled. "I'm not a weather system. Temperature has increased by 1.1 degrees. Pulse elevated. Please describe your discomfort." "Feels like I rubbed pepper in my eye and then tried to snort a hay bale." "Fascinating." The fern recoiled slightly, its fronds curling inward. Leon sat back, wiping his eyes. "Any chance I could get a towel that doesn't feel like it was made of recycled mesh?" A service drone rolled up and extended a cloth. Leon grabbed it gratefully and pressed it to his face. "Your species can endure simultaneous respiratory and ocular inflammation without incapacitation," Hark observed. "That is not medically intuitive. We don't love it, but we adapt. You think kindergarten teachers don't build antibodies like tanks? The council assumed recovery would require assisted respiration. I get this twice a year. You just ride it out." The fern emitted another puff. Leon recoiled, sneezed again, and waved a hand. "All right, that's enough. I'm cutting this short before I start leaking from my ears." The cube was retrieved. The air cleared. Leon blew his nose and slumped in the chair. Any other torture tests lined up? Maybe you want to watch me stub my toe next. No further provocations today. But there is a procedural review. Leon groaned. Is this about the sneeze again? No. This is about your genetic report. Hark handed him a datapad. Leon scrolled through it, eyes narrowing. You ran DNA sequencing on me? With your prior consent. I thought that was for immune markers. It was. Your T-cell variability is anomalously high. You possess immune receptors typically found only in post-viral recovery cohorts. Leon looked up. So I'm weird even for a human? You have survived infections that would be lethal to 90% of known galactic species. Well, I did get mono during exam week once. That was fun. This suggests that human resilience is not merely behavioral. It is systemic. Leon set the datapad down. So now what? You build a model immune system based on mine. Hark hesitated. We consider that. However, replication is not viable. The complexity of human immune training through childhood illnesses, environmental exposure, spontaneous mutation is not reproducible in a lab setting. Leon leaned back. So you can study us, but you can't become us. Correct. Then why keep testing? To understand how you function under constant biological threat. It may inform our own containment doctrines. Leon rubbed his forehead. You ever consider that maybe living with some risk is healthier than trying to eliminate all of it? That philosophy is not standard in Xelari culture. Maybe it should be. Later that day, Leon was summoned to a formal address chamber. The room was circular, lined with soft green lights and a floating holoscreen in the center. 5 Xelari counselors appeared as projected avatars, each translucent and tinted according to rank. Counselor Varal was among them. His avatar shimmered with a faint blue aura. You have completed the observational cycles, Varal said. We have reviewed the data. Leon stood in the center, still sniffling, arms crossed. And? You have demonstrated a capacity for biological endurance that is incompatible with our existing models. No kidding. Further, your willingness to subject yourself to discomfort without expectation of immediate benefit is perplexing. It's called being a team player. We interpret it as voluntary suffering. Leon shook his head. It's not about suffering. It's about getting through it. Even if it sucks. The counselors exchanged glances. One of them, a taller figure with a golden hue, leaned forward. We request that you assist in designing an educational module for Xelari youth. A simulation of human adaptive resilience. Leon blinked. You want me to teach kids how to sneeze into their elbows? Among other things. Coping mechanisms. Recovery strategies. Psychological tolerance of imperfection. Leon rubbed his jaw. That's a pretty tall order. You planning to pay me in cough drops? We offer access to our neural replication interface. You may preserve your experience digitally for future generations. He snorted. So a virtual version of me gets to sneeze for science forever. Hilarious. Your sarcasm is noted. Is that a coping strategy? Depends who you ask. Varal's avatar brightened. Then we are concluded. Back in his quarters, Leon packed his duffel. A message from Brinley flashed on his comm pad, shuttle to Earth scheduled for local dawn. He looked around the room one last time, then zipped the bag shut. Hark entered quietly, holding a small container. A parting gift, he said. Leon opened it. Inside was a sealed vial containing a sample of the Flenera fern, now dormant. You're giving me the sneeze plant? It has been genetically modified to be inert. Symbolic only. Leon grinned. Thanks. I'll keep it next to my flu shot reminder. He slung the bag over his shoulder. So, you gonna miss me? Your presence was educational. I'll take that as a yes. As he stepped onto the shuttle, Leon glanced once more at the ship behind him. A place where his sneezes caused panic, his sniffles sparked debate, and his stubborn persistence rewrote the rulebook on vulnerability. He coughed lightly into his elbow, smiled, and took his seat. Back to Earth, he muttered. where colds are just colds and tissues don't need a security clearance.